Let's move on now to the Detroit Lions in our free agency review series. But before we do that, this is the last series Ryan and I are doing about the free agency portion of the 2023 offseason before we pivot and start previewing the 2023 season with division winners, picks, game predictions, etc. And what does that mean for you, the viewer? A lot more Detroit Lions content. And if you want to see that and be notified immediately, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell. It's the easiest way for you to see when new content gets released. And Ryan, let's get into it here.
Let's do it.
The Detroit Lions, I think, is everyone's kind of pseudo fan favorite. If you're not a Lions fan, just in general, but you kind of just want to root for the Lions because now it's like they've been the butt of so many jokes for so long, and it's like we're all rooting for you guys. We want you guys to do well, and frankly, just in general, the Lions are an exciting team to watch. They got an explosive offense. Aiden Hutchinson-led defense gets after the quarterback. They are nasty. It is hard to find reasons to not like Dan Campbell as well. So it's like they're just a fun team to watch. You want to see them do well. They just feel like they're just a bunch of guys like still playing football. And so they didn't really lose too much here in the offseason. Like they did lose some members of the secondary, such as Deshaun Elliott, Jeff Okudah, Mike Hughes. But for being completely honest, the secondary wasn't very good in general. So it's like, I mean, maybe maybe that's bad, but it's like they were already poor, so I guess it can't get any worse. But then I think they did pick up and add some good pieces in the offseason that immediately improved to help out with some of the weaker pieces that left. And ironically, as I say, the pieces that did leave that were not so good, two of them went to the Falcons. So you're welcome, Lions fans. But let's move on, though, to the roster here. Well, actually, before we do that, what are your overall thoughts of the Lions offseason?
I mean, kind of what you said. I think they had an interesting draft approach where I really like the players that they added. I just think Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 and then Jack Campbell at 18 was kind of odd. But then I do really like the addition of Cam Sutton. That I think was a really good signing. So all in all, I like what they did. But yeah, let's get into their roster here and just kind of start breaking down this offense and defense here. So starting out, one name you will not see is Jameson Williams because he is suspended for the first 6 games due to gambling issues. So he is not going to be on this receiving group, but he is coming back in, I think, week 7. So starting out, Jameson Williams, Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marvin Jones Jr. is returning from Jacksonville. And then you have Khalif Raymond, as well. And then just a bunch of, I guess, rotational practice squad type guys after that. And then Sam Laporta is more of a plus-size wide receiver, I think, than a true tight end. And then to cap it off, I'm going to include Jahmyr Gibbs with the wide receivers because I think he's going to be a Swiss Army knife type player in the NFL.
Yeah. No, and I've even seen reports as well of they're going to use him a lot in the slot. Actually. And so they can still bring him into the backfield. But you have David Montgomery there. And while David Montgomery's wheels are still there, I think he's a year 3 down back. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of your gadget guy because he can kind of do it all. Montgomery can catch out of the backfield as well, but he's also, I think, a better blocker. I think he is a more traditional running back. While Gibbs, you can grow into that position. But while you got Montgomery here for a 3-year deal, and I mean, maybe if you cut him after 2, but it's like use him while you got him for what he's best at, and you can use Gibbs as like an everything else kind of guy. And so this to me, I like that. I love that they added Jahmyr Gibbs. I love that they got Jack Campbell. I love getting Sam Laporta there. I think he can be your TJ Hawkinson. And this team is just exciting to watch. It sucks with Jameson Williams, but I think 6 games in, though. I mean, they were 1-5 after 6 games last year, and I think they're going to do much better than that this year. And they got hot last year. This offense stayed hot. Jared Goff, I believe, is kind of being slept on a little bit by some people who are just diehard on drafting first-round quarterbacks. A lot of people were saying that Goff should have drafted backup or a future backup, which maybe they did with Hendon Hooker, but also Hendon Hooker is only like 2 years younger than Goff. Like I
Yeah.
think Hooker's 26th and
Yeah,
Goff
he
is
is.
28th or something like that. So it's like long-term stability is like we'll just have to see. But
Yeah.
that being said, though, it's this team, this offense is ready to explode next year, even without Jameson Williams for the first 6 games, because they didn't have DJ Chark, or they had DJ Chark, and I think Marvin Jones Jr. is probably much more consistent than DJ Chark is. So
yeah. But let's move on now to this defense, and I think this defense is going to take a big step forward, in my opinion. I think starting with Aiden Hutchinson coming back, and then they added Jack Campbell, a really physical linebacker at the next level, and then one of the steals of the draft was Brian Branch at like 43 or 45. I can't quite remember, but like middle second round, and they go and they get clearly the best safety in the class. I had him as a top 15 pick, and so I really like that. And then the addition of Cameron Sutton and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I think, will be great impacts to the success of this defense in 2023.
Yeah, especially too when there was just a clear shift of how this defense was playing after they fired their secondary coach, and the front seven started to play better. Still weak in the secondary, yes, but Aiden Hutchinson now is on his second year. There's a lot of positives to be taken from the second half of last year and what this defense was able to do, because this defense was actually pretty good. I would say it was average to above average if you look at just the second half of the season. And now they've added Emmanuel Mosley, as you mentioned, and Cameron Sutton and C.J. Gardner-Johnson clearly improved that secondary a bunch. And I think then you throw Brian Branch in there. I think that there's a lot of talent on this defense now. And going back to, I think this is where who you're playing for matters a lot. They just seem to really want to get after it for Dan Campbell. He seems to get something out of these guys that a lot of other coaches might not be able to. And so this will be a fun team to watch. And kind of moving on now to their expectations. It's weird. So they need to make the playoffs for sure. So if they make the playoffs, it's not like it's a bad season, but they need to win. I mean, they're the best team in this division. They need to win the division. So that's what the expectations are. They were even saying this at the draft. The Lions should win the division this year. The Vikings are overrated. They barely got to where they were at after a lot of lucky wins. A lot of coincidences seem to happen, and they didn't really dress too much in the offseason, I think, to help them out.
Yeah, they didn't have money or a lot of draft picks. So
yeah,
for me, I think they need to be pushing to go to the NFC Championship game for this to be a successful season for them. I think that starts with them winning the division and then winning their first wild card game. And then they need to at least be competitive in the divisional round, right?
Yeah.
This team is too good, I think, to be anything less than that, especially in an NFC, and specifically NFC North, that I think is middling to average, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that they are head and shoulders above the division talent-wise. And so I'm excited to see what they can do here in 2023.
Well, and think about it, too. It's like most likely at minimum they'd be looking at a third overall seed, because I would think the NFC South division winner would probably be the fourth.
Yeah.
So then you're looking at the sixth. Is that you look at the sixth seed? Like maybe you play the Giants, or maybe you play. I mean, maybe the Seahawks also. Like that's where it's like where they would fall in. And who's to say the Seahawks can't go win the division? I don't know, but it's. I don't even think that they'll be playing the best wild card team, which will probably be either the Cowboys or the Eagles. And so that's where it'll be a huge advantage for them to then win that game, then maybe advance going on, because those are probably the top two teams in the NFC. At least the Eagles. Eagles are definitely the top team in the NFC.
No, yeah, definitely. And so it's going to be really interesting for me to see what they can do. A lot of excitement around this team. I think we're both really, really high on what the Lions can do in 2023. Yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap up their offseason recap there. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below on what your favorite offseason addition was for the Lions. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.